Successful meetings and ultimately successful collaborations are about people, first and foremost. When you can't have everybody in the same room with you, it's important to be able to see them, to be able to interact with them, along with the information that you're working on. The only way that we could make it happen every day is to use GoToMeeting.
I'm Michael Parrish Dudell, entrepreneur, speaker, and best-selling author of Shark Tank Jumpstart Your Business. This is a show about discovery, about showcasing the next generation of business and media influencers. It's new, it's now, it's the next crop.
Hi everyone, and welcome to The Next Crop. I'm Michael Parrish Dudell. My guest today is Amber Rae. She's an entrepreneur, writer, and a creative consultant who's helped launch such projects as Alive Tribe, the Bold Academy, and the Domino Project. Amber, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So Amber, you're an entrepreneur, you're a writer, creative consultant. What exactly does that look like? What's a day in the life of Amber?
Wow, there isn't really one day in the life of Amber.
Yeah.
It really depends on what day of the week and what month that we're in. I think right now everything that I do is really about, I want to support people in aligning with their truth and aligning with what motivates them and energizes them, and to create and design a life from that place. And so how that manifests is in many forms. I write a blog. I'm working on something right now called the 100-Day Project, where I'm writing a book in 100 days. I have masterminds where I take creatives and entrepreneurs around the world and I help them to really connect with their intuition and to be surrounded by people who can help them take their life and ambitions to the next level. So there's a lot of things kind of that I'm experimenting with right now in pursuit of this ultimate goal of creating a new possibility for people.
So I think what you just said is probably the most important thing to know about you, and it's the word experiment. I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs, there are a lot of people out there who are terrified of experimenting, who really don't like to step out of their comfort zone and try things. You're the exact opposite. Everything I've seen you do really is an experiment and is a project, and you're constantly searching for that thing that feels right. Talk to me about that process, because in some ways that has to be a little exhausting, right? You're always trying something new, you're always experimenting. Does that feel like a natural pace for you, or is that something that you do because you know you need to?
It's definitely a process of me. Everything builds on each other, so no, it's not exhausting at all. I guess it'll help if I say kind of where it began. 5 years ago I decided, because I was in this 9-to-5 job working in technology, and I had this nagging voice that kept telling me every day, this is not your life, this is someone else's life. And you don't know what your life is yet, but the only way you're going to go find out is if you put yourself out there and you really live for the question and create the space to experience the answers. And so 5 years ago, my question was, what is my purpose and why am I here? And so in a 48-hour period, I sold everything I owned, I quit my job, I gave all my clothes away to charity, and I got in a plane to New York in 48 hours. And that really, for me, was the beginning of, okay, go answer those questions. And how I did that was through taking action. So I worked with 15 startups in 1 year. I launched something called Night Owls, which brought tech and creatives together late at night to get shit done. I worked with Seth Godin to launch the Domino Project. I ended up really, I think what's been the most consistent is writing about the journey and the process, the ups and the downs, the ebbs and the flows, and how I'm actually navigating and continually putting myself out there and going outside my comfort zone, because it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah, everything you're saying is absolutely terrifying to me, I'm not gonna lie. And the thing that scares me the most is for me, white space is stifling. I don't like the idea of blank canvas white space. I can't create there. But it sounds like you really enjoy sort of the openness that is white space. Is that true?
Yeah, I think white space is the only time that you can really connect and hear your inner voice. I think we've been taught not to listen, not to go within. We've been taught to look outwardly for answers. And it's only through that white space can I connect to that place and know exactly what needs to happen next.
That's interesting. So you talked about this book in 100 days, which is crazy. Tell me, very, very Amber, actually. It's not crazy, it's very you. Tell me about the book, what you're trying to build, and how you've actually experienced this. You're getting real-time feedback from your audience, and you're creating something that is being made sort of as you go. What's that like?
Yeah, so a little context and backstory. So the 100-Day Project actually came out of the Alive Tribe, which was this mastermind group. And one of the women there, El Luna, had this idea for a really long time of how can we push this out and launch this, because it was inspired by a professor at Yale, actually. And he gave all of his design students, they had to do a 100-day project. And the idea is that every day for 100 days, you do one consistent action. And then you have to document the process, and at the end, have something to show of it. And so, of course, feeling very ambitious, I was like, I'm writing a book in 100 days.
Yeah.
And then on day 2, I was like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, why am I writing a book in 100 days? And in the beginning, it was a lot of, putting pressure on myself and wanting the first draft to be perfect, and all of these things, and sharing that with the audience. But ultimately, it's just been about consistent action every single day, and the power of that, and just putting something out there that can shift a perspective, that can make someone feel like they're not alone in their journey, that can inspire them to move forward, which is ultimately what it's all about, just inspiring people to take action, because it's only through taking action that we find answers. And so I think whether or not it's actually a book is still, like, when I ask, like, why does it have to be a book is one output. And so I'm focusing more on the process rather than the actual final product, trusting that the products will reveal themselves, and they still are. And there's been a few interesting collaborations that I'm not quite ready to talk about yet.
Yeah.
But of course, it's attracted things that I could never have imagined or predicted.
One of the things I think is really interesting on your site is that you have a good way of connecting visual with the non-visual. So what I mean by that is an idea, which is very non-visual. You have these things that you do called Ambergrams, which it's hard to, what are they, drawings? They're little infographics that I don't know what you want to call them, but they're a visual way to represent something that you're trying to get across. Talk to me about how that started and the value that Ambergrams have for you.
Yeah, I mean, it all started through challenges that I was facing personally. How do I make decisions? How do I work through this fear rather than avoid it and push it away? And so suddenly I was making a hell yes model for decision making, and I was making this fear mapping tool, and I was telling myself 5 more minutes as a way to continue to push myself past my edge. And as I came up with these different mantras and frameworks and really mindsets and distinctions, I just started writing them down, and of course taking a picture on Instagram and sharing them, and people were like, oh, we really like these.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of grown in and of itself. Ambergrams have actually, I'm doing less of those, and those have evolved into this 100-day book project, because with every book post that I write, I also have a photo that accompanies it.
Yeah.
Whether it's how I take the pressure off is I have 30 minutes and 30 note cards, and I have to paint something for a minute, and each one has a minute. And then suddenly, through that process, I've gotten out of my head and into my heart, and I'm actually able to write and create from that place. So it's been a lot of experimenting with the creative process.
Yeah.
And these tools are, I think the way that people, especially in today's digital world, they have lower and lower attention spans. So if you can really effectively portray something visually, I think that's the fastest way to grab people's attention.
So Bold Academy was something that you worked on for the last couple years, and I'm going to let you explain what it is, but the mission was really bold. It was trying to help people find the life that they always wanted to live. And I think that with such a bold statement like that, I want to know what that means. Like, what does that mean for you as a founder? What does that mean for you as a person who's trying to find her life, as just a human being? Like, tell me about how that started and what that means to you.
Yeah, so a little backstory. Bold Academy came, I kept looking at all the different tech accelerators that exist. So there's everything from, Y Combinator's, Techstars, the Unreasonable Institute, which is more focused on social and environmental challenges. And I felt like there was a disconnect between the innovator and what they were innovating. And I found myself far less interested in the innovation and far more interested in where the innovator and where he was at when he was creating what he was creating. Because I felt like a lot of the things that were coming out of some of these programs added no value to our world, did not impact or move society forward. And so my thought was, what would happen if I put the innovator through a boot camp that helped them really to connect and align with themselves, understand what their motivations, their priorities, their values, what drives them, why they really want to do what they do. Are they driven by fear and ego, or are they driven by love and creativity, or what those things are for them? And so that was really where the idea for the Bold Academy came. And I had gotten so many emails from people. I've been at Google for 5 years and I hate my life, or and I don't know what's next, or I'm a tech entrepreneur and I have 20 ideas but I don't know which one to pick, or I'm a writer and I want to grow my following and build something bigger than myself.
Yeah.
And they didn't really have the community, the accountability, the mentorship, or some of the tools and frameworks to really be able to step into that.
So if the Bold Academy was a question, which was, what should I do? How should I do it? What was the answer? What did you find? What did your experiment turn up?
I mean, definitely that community is super powerful. And I think every single, the boulders, as we call them, still talk. They're still connecting. I think it's when you have that group of like-minded people who really will push you, support you, and challenge you. When you want to leave Google and you have no idea what's next, or when you are taking a leap from security at Adobe for 10 years to join a nonprofit startup across the coast, this community of people will really be there through the ebbs and the flows. And
That's
so
fantastic.
I think it was a balance of, wow, it really works in terms of pushing people past the edge, pushing people to take that leap. In addition, having that support system is what really enables someone to thrive.
And speaking of community, millennials, you and I, we are probably the most connected generation, which you would think helps find community and connect us to the right community. But we're sort of the most overstressed, overtired. What are we doing wrong? Where is the disconnect there, and how can we improve?
It's funny, we're so connected, but we're not connected to ourselves. And I feel like we are missing from our own stories. And we're focused on what's outside of us and what's external, and comparing ourselves to others, and everything that exists out there rather than what exists in here. And so I think the biggest challenge is, how do you actually connect to that inner voice? Because we've been taught not to listen to it. And when we can really connect to that place and hear what it has to tell us, I feel like all the answers are there. But we're just too afraid to go there.
I feel like inspiration is a really important part of what you do, but I think that empowerment is also equally important. How do you justify the difference between the two? How do you view inspiration? How do you view empowerment? And how do they play a role in your business and in your life?
I think inspiration leads to empowerment. I think inspiration's a gateway. It's what takes people who may be change ready and funnels them into a place
Wait, hold on. Change ready.
Change ready.
What does that even mean? That's like a very Oprah word. I feel like I should give a car away now. What does change ready mean to you?
Change ready means that person is actually open and ready for change.
And do you have to do something? Do you feel like you have to be at a certain place before you're there? Someone who's unhappy, maybe they hate their job, they're miserable, they're not change ready. Is there a process? How do you become change ready?
It often can be you experience enough pain that you realize this is not working anymore. And so I need to try another path, or it's you're the type of person who's open and ready for anything. I think it kind of goes one or two ways. But inspiration is what is that gateway. It's like the gateway drug. And once you've had the gateway drug, then you're like, wait, you start to recognize what you may want to improve or work on, and from that place, then it may be, oh, these are the tools that really apply to, because I'm really, I'm feeling a lot of fear right now, and these tools are going to help me navigate that fear. Or I'm having trouble making decisions, and this framework's going to help me figure out what is the right decision for me. So I think inspiration guides the person to a place of ready to be empowered.
Cool. So we've known each other for a few years, and I think that I hate the word superpower because it feels like, I don't know, one of those
Another
buzzwords.
Oprah word?
Yeah, but it's like not even. It's like superpower. I don't know. It feels cheesy to me. So I don't like the word superpower, but I like the idea behind superpower. And I think something that you do really, really well. You know how to ask the right questions. Almost always, I feel like, better than anyone else. And I'm curious, do you feel like people are unhappy and people are getting it wrong, not because they're not listening, but they're not asking themselves the right questions? And how do they change that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how do you make that switch as a person who's asking the wrong questions? How do you change?
I mean, it's something as simple as, like, I often hear people say, why is this happening to me? Which is totally victimizing yourself, and you really can't come up with answers or solutions from that place. But a better question might be, why have I created these circumstances in my life? And it's just it's like a muscle, just like we build muscles at the gym, we have to build our question asking muscle, and that just starts with awareness. So becoming aware of the questions that you ask, and asking, like when I asked myself, what is my purpose and why am I here? It was pretty broad, but I did then, when I moved to New York, I told people, I'm here because I want to figure out why I'm here and what my purpose is. Suddenly people are like, oh, that's really interesting. And I'm asking them, like, how they found their purpose, and how they, how they got to doing the work that they were doing, and that ultimately led me down a path of really figuring out what it ultimately that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I think questions are the most important way to move forward and to journey on toward our right path.
Well, it's certainly been an interesting journey, and I'm excited to see what's next.
Thank you.
Yeah. My guest today has been Amber Rae. You can find out more about Amber on her site, heyamberrae.com, or on Twitter @heyamberrae. And don't forget, if you like today's episode, visit thenextcrop.com/more, where you can get 5 more minutes totally for free of this episode. We're going to be talking with Amber about what you can do if you feel like you're stuck in a rut, you want something better. She's going to share some tips and tools in that 5-minute interview. Don't forget, that's thenextcrop.com/more. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.